We also have Dr. Jeff Andresen on today's virtual breakfast. Jeff is our weather guru, and we're hoping he has good news for us. Jeff?
Thanks, Phil. I wish when we met last week and talked, there was some thought of and actually we have had a little bit of improvement, but and following up on Kim's presentation, I guess the atmosphere is not going to turn off anytime soon in terms of the water. So that will be a continuing problem, as you can see from my title image here and where we've been over much of the last 2 to 3 weeks. But in the overview here, there are some reasons for some optimism. We will see warmer temperatures than we've seen in the past. But again, I think the biggest issue here meteorologically is that we are looking at a very active weather pattern. I had hoped earlier that maybe a lot of what we're going to be dealing with here over the next week, it would have been suppressed to our south, or at least out of Michigan. But it looks more and more as we get closer, especially to next week, that will not be the case. And I'll show you there are some significant changes in our medium range, looking out towards the last week to 10 days of May, but all of them point to a very, very active weather pattern, albeit warmer than what we have had. We have seen weather very, very atypical for a long time, of spring more and more like late winter in some ways and early spring, and at least I think we may be moving out of that. We likely will, at least in terms of temperature. Looking at statistics here quickly for the last week, and as it says, another cool wet week, and this is about the third in a row that we've had here. The precipitation totals on the left, most of the state saw at least a half an inch. Some areas saw up to 2 inches of rain, especially as you move up into the Upper Peninsula. Some areas that are a little luckier, you can see in the southeast part of the state, some cases less than a quarter of an inch collectively for the week. So quite a bit of a range. One thing that did not vary, though, across both the state and the region here on the right side, our mean temperatures have remained far below where they should be at this time of the year. Most of Michigan, 3 to 6 degrees Fahrenheit below normal on average. And note here, not too far off to our south and west over the central Corn Belt, some areas as much as 10 degrees Fahrenheit below normal. Our soil temperatures also lagging well behind where they typically are. And we mentioned this before, but a lot of this has been due to very, very cloudy days. We don't get much sunshine, and that's a big part of warming up our landscape at this time of the year. And it will not also to mention the water. It takes a lot of energy to evaporate water. We've got both of those. So as a result, our soil temperatures, air temperatures have lagged way behind or below where they should be. We're currently now, for most of the state, if we look at seasonal degree day totals back to the beginning of March, so not looking here at an overwintering crop, but we are a solid 1 to 2 weeks behind normal climatologically for most of the state, especially the northern part of the state. It's a little bit less as you go down towards the Indiana and Ohio borders, maybe more on the order of 4 or 5 days, calendar days behind normal. But the northern part of the state is solidly 2 weeks or even more behind normal. So that said, where are we headed? Well, on our weather map this morning here, we have one weather system, the next weather system to approach here from the north and west. This has some scattered showers with it down here in the lower right. I've inserted a recent radar pic, and you can see some of those showers just starting to make their way or making their way into portions of the Upper Peninsula. That will continue during the day. That area will sink to the south and east, but I think one important thing, they will weaken this time of the day as they move south and east and set the stage for a very, very active, almost a daily threat of rainfall. We're going to see this, looking at this frontal system here. This will move across the state here later today and tonight and basically stall west to east across the Great Lakes region and across Michigan and stay there for several days. And as you've probably seen many, many times, these frontal systems act as focusing mechanisms for rainfall, showers, and thunderstorms. One thing we will see also over time, even though it's not the case right now, but we will see increasing southerly and southwesterly flow here. The Gulf of Mexico will gradually open up, especially as we move into the weekend. That's always a major issue because it's a source of most of our water vapor for precipitation. So the rainfall that we're looking at generally here over the next couple days, and I'll talk about that just here in a second, but it will not be heavy. But as we move into the latter part of the weekend, I think we could see some heavier rainfall. So here for the next 24 hours, we will be looking at this weather system currently out over portions of Ontario and Minnesota, make its way into Michigan, and then stall out. And I'll move to tomorrow morning. You can see by tomorrow morning, here's the frontal system that passes through the state. We'll see probably about a 40 or 50% chance of rainfall here mostly during the afternoon and early evening hours tonight, a little bit higher as you go down to the southwest. There is a possibility tonight that we could see a few strong thunderstorms in the southwestern part, especially of lower Michigan. The primary threat there would be high winds, maybe a little bit of hail, but I think most of the heavy weather with this particular system will remain to the south of Michigan. And aerial coverage of precipitation, probably looking at about half of the area. There will be many areas that get little or much less. But by tomorrow, we will see a little bit of high pressure trying to build in, at least temporarily, across the state. So for at least northern parts of the state, we should see a cloudy and cool day, very, very, very similar to what we've seen over much of the last couple of weeks. There will be a lingering chance, though, for, as you can see here indicated in the map, for the threat of some rainfall, mostly scattered showers across far southern parts of the state. And then by the late afternoon tomorrow, this frontal boundary will begin to move north once again, and you're going to see a pattern here because it's going to happen again this weekend. But as this frontal boundary begins to move north again, we will see the threat of rainfall increase from southwest to northeast across the state, mostly by late tomorrow afternoon and into tomorrow evening. That's the next after today. That's the next threat for precipitation. And I'll move here to Saturday morning. You can see not much changes on the map other than the area for or the threat of precipitation grows, mainly spreads to the north. So we will see another round, as I mentioned, late Friday into early Saturday, and then the same as possible even during the day on Saturday. There will be chances will decrease the farther north in the state you go. So I think there will be portions of northern Michigan that remain mostly dry or come out of this with very little or no precip. Rainfall totals, though, will increase as you go south. And the next major system, I mentioned the Gulf of Mexico. Here you can start to see this pattern, high pressure over the southeast with return southerly flow over much of the Midwest. This frontal boundary here will, during the day Saturday, will move northward as a warm front, and we'll see this low pressure system ultimately make its way, as has been the case for much of the late winter and early spring. It'll move right through the Great Lakes region, probably over the Straits area by late Sunday. That will put lower Michigan, or much of lower Michigan, in the warm sector of the system by Sunday. And we will look, at least for southern parts of the state, we are going to be looking at a couple days of some early summer weather. I think even that will be the case today. We could see, especially if we break out of the clouds, we could see some of the southern couple tiers of counties especially make it up into the upper 70s and push 80 degrees for a high. That is something that's not happened that often. It will be significantly cooler than that, though, as you move north up into the northern lower and into the UP. So big temperature gradient across Michigan. The same will be true here this weekend, especially on Sunday. We could make another run at 80 degrees, I think, on Sunday. But there will be definitely an increasing threat for precipitation by Sunday. So we move on sort of into the medium range. This is a 3-day outlook. Here's that next low pressure system by Sunday morning with the warm front here. This warm front will move south to north during the day on Sunday, and this low pressure is expected to move right well through Wisconsin, up through the Straits area and into Ontario by late Sunday. But there will be showers and thunderstorms develop in the warm sector here, again, especially across the lower peninsula late in the day and into the evening. It's also possible, if we look at this particular forecast, there could be some severe weather associated with this. This is a typical springtime pattern across the Midwest. But one thing is for sure, hopefully some of the severe weather will remain south of Michigan, but it is a possibility. But one thing that is likely is we will see significant rainfall before the end of the weekend. And how much rainfall here? Looking at the next week, you can see there's a lot of colors on this map, unfortunately, and we've seen a lot this particular spring. But totals ranging generally from at least half an inch in the far southeastern part of Lower Michigan, that would be the least, up to well more than over an inch, especially across the western lower and up into the upper peninsula. Even some cases maybe 2 inches are possible. And in terms of when would this fall, well, a lot of this collectively will be over the next few days. But I guess one positive thing is after the system I mentioned on Sunday and into early Monday, it does right now look like Monday and Tuesday will be drier, mostly fair weather and a little bit cooler. The next chance for significant rainfall probably around Wednesday of next week, and there might be another system beyond that. But as I go back, we're moving into the medium range forecast guidance here. There's one very, very consistent theme here, and that is a change in the upper air pattern across North America. Note that we have had, for much of the last couple of weeks, we've had northwesterly flow aloft, and that's led to our cooler than normal weather with many, many weather systems or disturbances embedded in that. Well, we are looking next week at a big change, and that trough will migrate out to the west. So we'll have troughing over the west and then ridging over the eastern part of and the central part of the U.S., including Michigan. There's a couple things to note about this. There will be a very active storm track right here through the middle of the country, including Michigan. That's been true for much of the late winter and early spring. And along with this, you can see expected continuation of above normal precipitation. That's obviously not good news. On the more positive side, with this ridge here, we will see the development of above normal temperatures. And I think this is a very, very good bet for us, the warmer and wetter than normal scenario that looks like it will be likely here probably for the remainder of May. The 8 to 14 day outlook is virtually the same. The warmer than normal temperatures cover a little bit larger area of the Great Lakes region, but it also does unfortunately call for above normal precipitation. One last thing about this, and before I wrap up, the forecasters from the Climate Prediction Center at NOAA that issue this have a confidence index that they issue, or they provide with all of these outlooks Monday through Friday, and it's a numerical index 1 through 5 with 1 very low confidence for given the time of the year and the season, etc., and 5 being very high confidence. It's worth noting that both the 6 to 10 day and 8 to 14 day outlooks, and these were issued late yesterday afternoon, they both have 5s. That's not very common to see that. Typically we see 3s, once in a while a 4, and in situations with transitions we'll see a 2. But we don't often see both of those outlooks have a 5. But that has been the case right now, and it was also the case yesterday. So as I mentioned, there is very, very strong confidence or high confidence in this particular outlook for the rest of May. So the bottom line is we are looking at some warmer temperatures, but unfortunately many, many chances for precipitation here, at least over the next week and probably through the end of the month before a change. So more challenges ahead. Timing is going to be very important, and at least hopefully with warmer temperatures, the evaporation rates will be a little bit higher than they've been. That's about all I have. Does anyone have any questions here this morning on our weather outlook?
Jeff, I don't see anything in the chat box, so we'll say thanks a lot for your weather forecast. We were hoping for some dry weather.
Yeah, sorry, it wasn't a little more optimistic.
All right. Well, that concludes our virtual breakfast for this morning. Let me just remind you that next week at 7 a.m. we'll have Dennis Pennington sharing his information about fungicides in wheat, and Martin Nagelkirk, our newly returned from his vacation educator, will be joining us as host. And also in your chat box, we have an evaluation that we'd like you to complete if possible, and it should show up at the bottom of the chat box. Again, thank you everyone for joining us today, and stay safe out there whenever you get into the tractors or any type of equipment this spring. Thank you and have a great day.